Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. I'm Jim, one of the Monos. That's Steve. He's the other Mono.
Hello, everybody.
And yes, we are indeed brothers, which people think we kind of look alike, but I don't know about
You can tell who's the oldest, obviously.
that. Well, Steve is back in Monahan Studios today, so we're not going to have any technical issues, Steve. So, welcome back.
Well, thank you. Glad to be back.
And as always, our producer Rob behind the curtain. So, of course, we always start our show with the monologue, which is always sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York, who, by the way, did not win the St. Joe's golf outing foursome scramble this year. She was very disappointed, but he'll get them next year. So, good luck, guy, next year.
Good luck, guy.
So, like I said, we started off with the monologue. So, Steve, take it away.
Well, I think we're about a week out from college football. Not even. I think Thursday is probably the opening day. But what I found fascinating, again, this whole new landscape of what college football that we're in for, and specifically the name, likeness, image thing. Okay. So Miles Brennan, the quarterback for LSU, who took over for Joe Burrow, he's been kind of hurt back and forth. He was going to transfer out. He was, and Brian Kelly, got him back, and on and on. But ultimately, about a week or two ago, he decided, no mas, no more. But I also found out there was incentive for Miles Brennan not to come back. You know what that incentive is?
I don't.
He's already made $4 million in name, likeness, image deals as the quarterback of LSU.
Wow.
So Miles Brennan, I think we all know, would not be a number one draft pick quarterback. I don't even think he probably would translate to the NFL. Good, you know, he's quarterback at LSU. He's a good quarterback. But I found that to be just the beginning of the kind of money that's being thrown around. We talked last year. Bryce Young had $1 million already in the bank even before the season started, and if Miles Brennan has $4 million, I can imagine
how much Bryce Young has.
What Bryce Young probably has.
Right.
So then I came across another name, likeness, image thing that caught my attention. So a kid transferred from Texas, I believe, to Nebraska, and his name is D Coldest, DeColdest Crawford. Now I never heard of anybody named the Coldest.
New to me. New to me.
But the fact that he went to Nebraska, he just signed an NLI deal with a local, Lincoln, Nebraska
car dealership or something.
heating and cooling company.
Okay.
So DeColdest just landed $105,000 in his pocket for doing a couple tweets, a couple spots for this. But I just want to bring that to everybody's attention. And again, with the transfers and everything else, um, the landscape of college football is it's not what it once was. And then I just want to finish on college football real quick. I saw um, the first, let's just say, discussions that the power conferences are dropping the bomb, and it's going to come either this year, next year, no later than 2 years out.
What's the bomb?
The bomb is they're leaving the NCAA. The NCAA is not going to have anything to do with the superpower conferences. They're going to be their own entities. And the fact that they're already looking to break out of this, that's what's going to happen. The NCAA will have jurisdiction over many other sports, but I'm telling you right now, folks, college football will be its own entity with these superpower conferences.
Well, you're absolutely right. It's funny, Steve, that you brought this up because I wanted to bring up Miles Brennan, leaving LSU and quote unquote retiring from football, which was kind of big news. But that I didn't know about,
Oh, yeah.
actually. I guess people are tired of the NCAA, right? The governing body of college sports, right? They want. Why can't we just do this on our own? So is that what's happening? I
There
guess?
is no governing. It's they're in it for the money, right? And that's it.
Mm.
We just saw this past week as well. TV deals were signed with NBC, CBS, Fox for the Big Ten and all this other stuff for huge money,
And
billions.
Over a billion, and ESPN was not included in that. That was big news as well.
Well, I think
actually.
ESPN. If ESPN doesn't want to be included, then they don't want to be included, right? I mean, if ESPN wanted this, ESPN.
I
would
wonder
step up
about
anyway.
that. I don't know. There must have been some rift between them and
It's not,
ESPN.
no, it just seems like they're sharing the wealth. Again, it's CBS, it's NBC, it's Fox.
And you know what that means? That means like a Big Ten game will be on Fox, NBC, and CBS like every Saturday, right? At 1, 4:30, and
Right.
8 o'clock.
And who's negotiating this? The Big Ten or the NCAA?
I don't know.
The Big Ten. The NCAA has nothing to do with it. I'm telling you, folks, they're breaking off into these super conferences, and that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
Especially once USC, UCLA head to the Big Ten, and Texas and Nebraska go to the SEC. Okay, now Notre Dame is still
Waiting for the best deal they could get.
Well,
of
yeah,
course,
I
right?
mean, as of now, they're still independent, but they still have money coming in from NBC. That contract's up, I think, a year or two at the most.
And they're a big attraction. It's appealing to all the conferences are going to wine and dine Notre Dame to
Right.
join that power conference, right?
I mean, what would make probably the most sense is the Big Ten for Notre Dame, if they do. But listen, if NBC ponies up, or maybe ESPN ponies up, right, and gives Notre Dame the big bucks. But Notre Dame's going to get a big payday.
It is.
So
It is.
College football's fast upon us.
Yep. So let's stick with college football for a second. So obviously the preseason polls come out, and right, we have the usual suspects, right? Alabama, Georgia, Clemson. I don't know what that means. I mean, obviously it doesn't really mean anything except going into the season. But these are three powerhouse schools, and they're not part of the Big Ten, which, to your point, so that's going to be the interesting factor about this power conference structure, right? There's probably going to be what, three conferences, right? Three superpowers, I guess.
No, they're talking six. There's going to be probably six.
Yeah, but where is six
You got
power
the
conferences?
ACC.
But they're not on the Georgia, Alabama, Clemson level, though.
No.
Ohio State, that kind of thing. That's why I don't think there could be six.
That's why, like, the Cincinnati's and so on and so forth will be part of it. So, I mean, there's going to be conferences. Six. It's not going to be 120 teams like it is now, right? It's going to be probably 60, something along those lines.
It is completely different from when we were growing up, right? There was. So even New Year's Day is not going to be the same, right?
Not at all.
Right.
No.
But
it's going to be a play, and the college football playoff is going to expand, right? It's not going to be 4 teams. It's going to be
at least 8 to start, probably, right? I mean, maybe more.
It could be more.
Maybe more.
It could be more. So the whole landscape has changed. The one big game, though, right out of the gate, is Ohio State and Notre Dame. So you got number 2 Ohio State versus number 5 Notre Dame.
Yep.
And this should be a really good game. I mean, Notre Dame, they got talent. They got talent. Tyler Buckner is coming back at quarterback. This Michael Mayer guy at tight end's a beast.
He is good.
Marcus Freeman had a really good defense last year, and he'll be in control of that. And Notre Dame should be a close game. I don't foresee Ohio State running away with it. It's still early. We've seen Ohio State get out of the gates slow the last couple years. But C.J. Stroud and our boy Luke Whippler, and Ohio State will be there.
Yep.
You know, for a playoff spot.
So some of the big kind of changes, like we talked about this on last year's show, right? This kid Quinn Ewers, right, had a nil deal already. He was still in high school, for crying out loud, and he committed to Ohio State and ultimately transferred to Texas because you can just pack your bags and go play for anybody. Apparently, was named the starting quarterback at Texas by Sarkisian, which is kind of a big deal. Because guess who's waiting in the wings? Guess who's coming to Texas next year? Arch Manning, right? So this is the kind of stuff that makes it all. That's why I find NCAA so much more fascinating than the NFL. I mean, the NFL is, I don't want to say predictable, but there's only 4 or 5 teams that have a legitimate shot at winning. In this college football scenario, there's a lot more than 4 teams that have a shot at winning the national championship, whatever that may be, right?
Right.
So that's right. You're right. The Ohio State and Notre Dame game is the marquee game. I think it's like September 3rd or 5th or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And just to bring up your point, and we keep harping on this kid, but he's going to be probably a #1 draft choice. This guy Luke Whippler, who we've watched him since he was 3 feet tall, and now he's 6'5" and 300 pounds. And I'm sure he's getting nil money. I don't know about that for sure. I haven't spoken to his father in a while, but he's probably going to win the Dave Rimington Award, right? Which college football fans know. Rimington was one of the greatest centers to ever play college football out of Nebraska. But this guy, Luke Whippler, is the real deal, and he's playing on one of the top teams in the country. And I can't wait to have him on the show when he's a #1 draft pick when we do our draft show next year. But guess what, Steve? Let's stick with football for a minute. High school football is starting too. So when we talk about college, we're talking about certainly in the Northeast, there's these super conferences, right? With the Bergen Catholics, the St. Joe's, the Don Boscos, and now DePaul and Del Barton. These are all some of the best teams in the country. And I was looking through, they have the top 250, right? High school football players coming out, where they're going to go to college. IMG, and we've talked about them before. It's basically a football factory. I don't think you have to go to class, but out of the top 250,
you just got to pay a check for $80,000 a year.
Right, but at this point in stage with sports, these kids are getting nil deals on their own. So they're not paying $80,000 to go to IMG. But out of the 250, I was going through the list, and it was IMG. There was literally 15 guys on the top 250 of high school football players at this. So how does that measure up? Can the super conferences like St. Joe's and Bosco and Bergen compete against the IMGs and the good counsels? And we're going to find that out, because St. Joe's opens the season against good counsel from Washington, D.C., and they're a powerhouse on their own. But you have all these teams in Texas, California, and Ohio, and Florida. Unbelievable. And that's why college football and the Alabamas and Clemsons and Notre Dames and Georgias get these kids. That's why they're the perennial, every year, the best teams in college football. But I love high school football, and we're contemplating, doing a broadcast from one of the games this year. We still got some things to work out, but I'm excited for high school football. And St. Joe's is opening the season, like I said, and the other power schools are playing these too. They're going across country. They're playing these high school football games. This is the best talent in high school football, and that's why every year college football is never short of superstars. And then the next step will be the NFL. So it's great to see. I can't wait for it to begin. I'm more excited about watching St. Joe's start the season than I am about the Giants starting the season. So we'll move on to the NFL, of course. And that's happening. And our producer was saying, he gets to watch. Rob's going to watch the Giants Bengals tonight. Well, I'm sure Joe Burrow is not playing. Half of the Giants team is injured. So I don't really watch preseason football. But let's jump in and get to the elephant in the room. It's a topic we've been talking about forever, the Deshaun Watson thing, right? So now he got the 6-game suspension, and Goodell puts up this phony thing like he actually cares that this guy's a predator. So they fine him $5 million, which overall, Steve, right? They guaranteed the guy 265 million. So Jimmy Haslam from the Cleveland Browns will pay that fine on top of his 265 guaranteed to play. But they up the suspension from 6 games to 11. Wow, big deal.
As Derek Coleman of the New Jersey Nets once poetically said after a game, "Whoop-de-damn-do."
Right. Right, but that's,
This is so, again, I just hate to keep repeating myself. This is so ridiculous. It's sickening. And
and almost comical.
It's not even comical because this guy is a predator.
Yep.
I mean, we're talking 60 instances here. I don't care that he's settled and with the majority of them. I think there's 4 still out there.
And he's never going to shake this thing. I mean, it's going to follow him wherever he goes. Every road game, he's going to get harassed. Exactly. I agree. It should.
So the Cleveland Browns want this guy as the face of their franchise. He's all yours.
Yep.
You'll have to wait till week 12 to unveil him.
But I think they knew it was ultimately going to be more than 6 games. It should have been at least 1 season, maybe 2 seasons, but it's not. Producer Rob.
And do you realize the game he comes back, he plays in Houston?
That's right. His first game back will be against Houston.
You were like, why are you allowing this guy back into Houston after what he's done?
Do you think that's a random thing? You don't think that's exactly what Roger Goodell knew it was going to happen? Because what does that mean? More money for the NFL. It'll be the most watched game of the season.
But he has to comply with certain things too. So
yeah, keep his hands in his pocket. That's what he has.
He's not repentant at all. He thinks he's innocent. So this should be a very interesting couple of months.
If he was innocent, he wouldn't have settled 20 sexual abuse cases, and he wouldn't. Come on, let's not joke around and say this guy is innocent. He actually apologized, and it was one of the most unappealing apologies I've ever seen. Insincere is the word I was. Thank you. But yeah, that's what it is. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the 11 games coincides with his first game back against the Houston Texans. I don't.
Boy, that Goodell, he is so smart, savvy.
He earns all of that $47 million a year, doesn't he? Anyway, so we're only, we still got to, muscle through 3 preseason games. And all that is an audition for the young kids, right? They don't even play starters anymore in preseason. That's why I can't get excited about it. But the other thing, Derwin James, highest paid safety in history. And this is what Steve and I have talked about 1,000 times. The bar gets set, and then it just keeps on going. And, ultimately, Lamar Jackson will be the highest paid guys. We watched when Patrick Mahomes signed that contract saying, oh my God, this is unprecedented. $500 million. It's not even going to be in the same ballpark what these guys are making now. It's insane.
It's insane.
And I'm not going to pay $500 to go to an NFL game and pay $18 for a beer. I'm just not going to do it.
But Derwin James is a really good football player.
He is. He is.
Is he Ed Reed?
Not yet.
Ronnie Lott?
Nope.
Right? I mean, those two, Ronnie Lott, number 1, Ed Reed, 1-A, they are the 2 greatest safeties ever to lace them up.
Yep.
But Derwin James is a nice player. And again, this is the market. The NFL bleeds money, prints money.
Yep.
There's so much money out there. So if you throw in this guy that kind of dough,
it's there. It's because they have it.
Right. And it's just not going to stop.
And the well will never run dry.
The well is not going to run
dry. Yep. Hey, so good for him. We're okay with this.
No, sure.
But here's one other thing. And this is the biggest pet peeve of mine is these guys holding out that have contracts, right? So that the one guy now who, let's give perfect example of this, is Roquan Smith from the Bears.
Right.
And he's under contract, right? Playing in his final year of his rookie contract. I don't think he's, Jack Lambert and
He's the Bears' best defensive player.
okay. But the Bears said, listen, you could hold out all you want and you're not getting paid. So he just showed back up into camp and said, I'll take my chances on my performance. So he'll probably have a great year, but it drives me crazy that they cave into this, like the Deebo Samuel, same deal, into his final rookie year of his rookie deal. And I just can't stand that they can't honor these contracts and that the teams buckle in. And I think the Bears did the right thing. I mean, the Bears overall are kind of a mess, right? I mean, they can't even put the grass in on the field to play a
They got a new
preseason game.
GM, new coach, and Eberflus. Listen,
But they needed that. They needed to
they
shake
needed
it
to
up.
put their foot down and say, listen, I'm not paying you right now.
And you know what? You watch. It's probably not out of the realm of possibility. He shows back up into camp, and then they give him thing, and Roquan Smith will be the highest paid linebacker in the game for 10 minutes until somebody else comes in and gets the money. But I hope this was a sign of things to come.
I don't know why, again, I've said this to you 1,000 times. I have no idea why this burns you.
Because they're under contract.
Okay.
And when your contract is up,
It means nothing.
but it should mean something.
It means nothing.
My point is it doesn't mean anything, but it should mean something.
Well, it doesn't.
Well, okay, so the Bears say, hold out all you want. You won't make the $12 million you're scheduled to make this year. It is a pet peeve of mine. I know we can never see eye to eye on this.
It doesn't bother me.
It bothers me
Because
a lot.
I don't care. I don't.
But it's setting
There is no honoring contracts.
Why
The
not,
NFL,
Steve? Why
the
not?
NBA. It just doesn't.
Baseball, they honor contracts,
Well,
don't they? Hockey,
do.
they honor
yes,
contracts.
they do.
Have you ever seen a hockey player hold out under contract that says I'm sitting out until I get a new deal?
Off the
No.
top of my head, I cannot say I remember the last time.
So call me a traditionalist, but that's how I feel about it, right? Anyway, so let's move on to one other thing in the Hall of Fame category. Steve called me on Wednesday and came up with a very clever headline. Say it is so, Joe. Because on Sports with Mano a Mano, our passion is Hall of Fame is the elite of the elite. And we talked about it last week. And so they came down, and it's a shame. It's hard to even believe that it's come down to a senior, right? A senior category voting Joe Klecko into the Hall of Fame. And I'm so happy for Joe Klecko. And I'm not going to rest until we have Joe Klecko on our show to talk about how long it's taken and why it's taken so long. But quote unquote, it's not official yet, right? These are the 3 Hall of Fame finalists, which is Chuck Howley, which is near and dear to Steve's heart, right? The only player to win MVP
And he's still
on a
alive at
losing team.
86 years old.
Yep. But can you really believe it's taken these guys 50 years to get into the Hall of Fame? It drives me crazy.
And the third guy's Ken Riley, who was all 70s cornerback for the Bengals.
And still
senior career.
5th in all-time interceptions in the National Football League. So what took these guys so long? But I don't get it. But I was so happy that Joe Klecko's getting in the Hall of Fame.
And
it
again,
makes me.
It's not official. I mean, they have to go to this next level by where they have to be approved by 80% of whoever the hell.
Yeah, whoever these guys are.
I swear to Christ. I swear to Christ. If Klecko is not, or Howley.
We're out.
Oh,
We're out.
It's not going to be good.
We'll talk about pickleball before we talk about the Hall of Fame in the National Football League. But here's another thing, and I bring this up too, because there's other names on that list that didn't make it as finalists, which means they're never getting into the Hall of Fame. And those are like Tommy Nobis, Randy Gradishar, Bob Kuchenberg. I mean, are you kidding me? These guys are not Hall of Famers? How is that possible? Doesn't make any sense.
Tommy Novus.
So is Randy Gradishar. So is Carl Mecklenburg for the most part on the Bengals. I don't understand who these people are and why they think they're qualified to determine better than Sports with Mano Mano. We watched these guys. I doubt that half of these guys that have votes actually know who Randy Gradishar is. But he was great. He belongs in the Hall of Fame. And it drives me insane. I know I beat this like a drum, but I can't get past it that Bob Kuchenberg is not in the Hall of Fame. How is that possible? Randy Cross, another one. How is he not in the Hall of Fame? But Steve and I have very high standards, but these guys meet that criteria that we call high standards. You know, to get into the Hall of Fame, a Dan Hampton and versus a Bob Lilly, or a defensive end that's not even in the category of a Bruce Smith or Reggie White. Those are Hall of Famers. And God, you're right. If by chance they do not vote Joe Klecko into the Hall of Fame, I don't know how to say we're done, but we're
done.
We're done. Yeah, we're done. Wow.
I'll say this about the NFL. Why I guess I keep coming back, and so soon I'm not going to be coming back. So during work this week, or a couple lunch hours, I come across, and I've seen it and haven't seen it in a while, is the Oakland Raiders, Miami Dolphins, 1974 Sea of Hands game at the Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tell you, well, such a fantastic game, it's unbelievable. Matt Moore is a rookie on the Dolphins.
Yes.
He returns the opening kickoff, right, for a touchdown.
Yeah.
7-0. The Dolphins defense, the two-time defending champs. Jake Scott gets hurt, I think, in like the first 2 minutes of the game. Big. It's such a huge loss. Jake Scott, all pro. Jake Scott, number 13.
Was it Stabler or LaMonica, the
Stabler.
quarterback? Stabler. Okay.
But Freddie Biletnikoff shows his wares towards the Dolphins defense was stuffing the Raiders, this, that, and the other thing. And then Freddie Biletnikoff starts to get open, late third quarter, early fourth quarter. And Biletnikoff makes this one touchdown catch in the corner of the end zone.
One hand, right?
One hand.
I remember it.
His other arm being pulled back, gets his feet in. Beyond. It's one of the greatest catches I've ever seen. And then Cliff Branch, when he Stabler throws a bomb to Branch, he falls down with that ball. But a replay shows he didn't catch this, man. He didn't catch him. So he fell down, got up, scored the touchdown. But on and on.
And they didn't have replay back then, so it stood.
No.
Right?
Bob Greasy was the quarterback, hits Paul Warfield for a go-ahead touchdown. And, with like 2 minutes and 7 seconds left, Greasy is saying, I think we left too much time with the clock. I think we left too much time with the clock. And then that was to see a hands. Clarence Davis catches this game-winning pass from Stabler. That's why
we watched.
We would
And you're right. That's what we go back and we are so into these.
I just wish it was the NFL was somewhat
as enticing as it was back then,
right.
I think. But we love classic games, right? They can never be undone. It was controversy, and now we're in a whole new era in football with replays and the whole different. You can't hit guys in the head anymore.
Manny Fernandez on the Dolphins defensive lineman.
Excellent.
Oh my God!
Excellent.
He was a monster.
Excellent.
A monster.
Yeah. So listen, we're going to talk about the NFL going, we'll do our NFL preview show, Steve, right? Like the week before. But yeah, when I watch those highlights, that's what hooked us when we were kids. And we've been hooked all along, but we're starting to lose a little faith in either the credibility or the hypocrisy of the NFL and so forth. And like I said, it always
It's a lot
started for
of
me.
it's a lot of cumulative
It
factors.
started for me with the whole concussion thing and that they denied it all along and didn't pay these guys. And these are the very people that made that league what it was back then. And you're right. Great point. Let's move to the diamond, right? Major League Baseball, right? We're in the dog days of August, and Yankees are struggling, right? They're kind of struggling, a little
Not kinda
frustration.
struggling. Lost 15 out of 19.
Yeah,
The lead is now 7.
they're 4-14 in August, and I don't know. I mean, are the wheels coming off? I looked this morning and I go, oh my God, they were so far ahead. Like the Dodgers are 18 games up. No one's catching the Dodgers in the West. But now the Yankees are only up by 7 games.
And they still have Toronto today.
And they do. So listen, Judge is having a monster year, but we always said these 220 hitters, it's ultimately going to catch up to them. And it has. And the pitching, right? It couldn't be that dominating for an entire season. So they faltered a little bit. And it boiled over yesterday. Aaron Boone at the press conference, getting very, very tired of answering the same questions. And I don't blame him. I kind of like Boone, but I will always mention this to you. It's the standard question and the standard answer. We got to play better, right? And Derek Cole, I know you've always been, let me say, challenging me on his effectiveness of being one of the top pitchers in the game. And I still do, but you're right. He's got to be better than 9-6 and a 3.0 ERA. I agree with you 1,000%. I do. But the Mets on the other side of the river, they seem to be actually picking up momentum. And Jeff McNeil's playing out of his mind, and they still got the 2 best pitchers in the game. And I kind of like the Mets' chances to at least to meet the Dodgers in the championship series, which, by the way, with this expanded, baseball playoff format, which is a long way from when you and I used to watch. The Yankees won the East, the Royals won the West. They played a series. They went to the World Series, and it's so different now because of, like you said, fill in the blank. It's all about the money. But the Dodgers,
Moolah.
but look at the Dodgers, man. They are just rolling. This guy Gonsolin he's 15-1.
Saturday.
But anyway, so baseball is starting to heat up.
The New York Mets look real good.
They do.
Okay. And I'm not wavering from my pick of the Dodgers from the beginning of the year. They're just loaded, right? And listen, they lost Walker Buehler. He's out for the season. Kershaw's got back issues. You got to think Kershaw will be good to go come October.
But they just got this kid Dustin May, who's just coming off Tommy John surgery. So they can't. If they're depleted for a day, they fix it, and it's crazy.
And then the Mets call up this kid Brett Beatty.
Home run in his first
great
at bat.
stories. His whole family's pretty much there. And
Yep.
First pitch, launches it to right field.
That's a pretty good moment.
Awesome. I mean,
Yep.
that's good stuff. So, and Buck Showalter,
we beat it to death.
we do.
He's that good of a manager that it makes the Mets fans should just be
Once the Yankees are
grateful.
if the Yankees make it, which they should,
They will.
they should. But it'll be an early exit as always. I'll be all in on the Mets. And the only reason is it's Buck Showalter, who I revere. And I really hope Buck Showalter is able to finally get. He's running out of time. I mean, Buck's no spring chicken anymore. He's 67, maybe 68.
No, he's not that old.
No, he's 67.
No, he can't be more than 64, 65.
Okay, he's 67. Rob, can you check that?
He looks 67, but he's not.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, but you're right. The Mets are the real deal. They just got it going, and they got the 2 best pitchers in baseball. So I like their chances, but I agree with you.
66.
That's Thank you.
A little closer to 67 and 64.
I said 65.
Oh, did you? I heard 64.
Anyway. So listen, with the baseball, and we saw this with the free agency stuff, right? The Texas Rangers dumped a ton on Simeon and Corey Seager, and they fired not only their manager, Chris Woodward, they fired their GM too. So spending all
John
of this
Daniels,
money,
17 years in Texas.
right? And he never won anything. So I mean,
No,
it's kind of
they went to the World Series.
once, right? Once.
So
Anyway,
this is Texas we're talking about.
but this is the
But
market
for the
of.
past 6 years, they just awful.
And I think we talked about it, like when the free agency thing was coming, Simeon, he had a career year. You kind of knew he wasn't going to have that kind of career. He had 1 year. He was a good player, but then he had a career year, breaks the bank. Seager breaks the bank. Seager's actually having a good year, but a franchise like them, I thought one thing that was interesting was Dennis Eckersley came out and had this little speech about the Pittsburgh Pirates. Like, this is a minor league baseball
Not a
team.
speech. He was like, "This is a joke."
I mean, a joke, right? I mean, you look at the Pirates. You go, yeah, they're no name guys, of course, but they're
The
not
Pirates
competitive.
Don't spend money. They don't spend.
Then how can they expect people to spend money to go to the ballpark?
Because they're the Pittsburgh Pirates in Pittsburgh. There's nothing else to do to the Steelers.
But I thought it was great that Eckersley came
And
out.
I've been to a Pirate. I've been to 2 Pirate games.
Oh, okay. I never been to one.
Great venue. Great, like, really. I don't care. It was the Pittsburgh Pirates. Wasn't Willie Stargell and
The '79 team, right?
yeah, right. John Candelaria on the mound, type of thing.
We are family team.
We are
right?
family. But yeah, I mean, and again, revenue sharing, right? The Pirates are supposed to be spending money, right? Because they get a cut of this enormous pie. So they can cry, poverty all they want.
But they're making money somehow, right? They're getting a piece of the pie. You're right.
Obviously.
I agree. But there's going to be more, people are going to be frustrated with this. And I think this is what Derek Jeter saw, like the direction he left the ownership of the Marlins, because I mean, it's Florida, right? Nobody goes to the baseball games, right? They're a football town. They're a hockey town more than a baseball town, but nobody was going. And Jeter said, I don't want any part of this.
Well, it was the ownership's vision. Jeter was told, I'm in charge, quote unquote. This is what I want to do. And then the ownership said,
we're not going to spend that money.
We're not going to do what we promised you were going to do. Derek Jeter said, all right, that's it. Done.
Yep.
That's it. Bye-bye.
But there's going to be more managers like Woodward that are going to have to pay the price for this, for people not going to the games, because they're not putting a competitive team on the field. And the Pirates were a perfect example. And
They'll hire another manager.
Right. I mean, Major League Baseball, as we know, it's hard to find that Derek Jeter in the minor leagues or the Juan Sotos, right?
Yeah, but when you're picking in the top 5 year after year after year, and again, we've talked about the Major League Baseball draft compared to the NFL or the NBA draft, where who the hell knows, about a high school kid that's maybe a shortstop from Alabama or something, right?
I get it.
And he's the top pick, or he's the second pick, or the third pick, right? I get that. But if you're the Pittsburgh Pirates, where perennially you're drafting in the top 5, if not the number 1 pick, if not the second pick, year after year after year,
you would expect them to get it right at least once out of
a foundation to be formed, right? Where you get 3-4 jewels, okay? And then with the revenue sharing, you make it a key free agent signing, okay? You groom your pitchers. You think about the Pirates is a lot of teams, Brian Cashman especially. Who are we always looking at? Oh, we always like this outfielder. The latest one is this guy Reynolds or something on Pittsburgh. But for the last 5 years,
Right.
you know, their best player or their, you know, a serviceable major leaguer, they're going to trade him. Why? So they want to pay him.
And here's the listen.
And that's where the teams, the contenders, scoop in and get a nice player.
Let's talk about that because you're right. You would think that you have a top 5 pick, but then again, you have the Nationals who had right. They did their homework. They got this kid Juan Soto, right? But over the past 3 years, they traded Trey Turner, they traded Max Scherzer, they traded Juan Soto. So how can a Washington Nationals fan say they're invested in putting a quality major league team on the field? It's so frustrating. As a fan, I would be not happy.
No, I think the Nationals are doing a good job. Nationals won the World Series.
And then they blew it up, though.
Yeah.
2018, they won the World Series.
Yeah.
Why blow it up?
Because it was unsustainable. Mike Rizzo is a damn good GM. Mike Rizzo is a talent evaluator of talent. Mike Rizzo is a scout. Mike Rizzo knows baseball. And Mike Rizzo's acquiring these assets that, with his track record, I would be fine as a Washington National.
But it's going to take 4 or 5 years of mediocre to sub-mediocre baseball.
Listen, I won your World Series, right? 3-4 years ago. Okay? I'm rebuilding this. It's going to take time. But if you have somebody with credibility who knows what he's doing, as a fan, I have faith that he's going to restock the cupboard with bona fide players, and then in 3-4 years they'll be back.
The problem I have with it, Steve,
cyclical.
I know, but it shouldn't be. You should always try to put the best team on the field and not blow up a World Series championship.
The Texas Rangers, you think when they signed Seager and Simeon, they didn't think they were trying to put the best field team out there? Yeah, and look what happened. It's
for that year, but that's not a situation that Seager and Simeon are in the twilight of their careers. So it's
but they just signed them to all these big contracts
to win it now, and they're 25 games under 500.
Okay, so
I'm not going to the games.
My point is, Texas wasn't sitting there trying to tank. They're trying to win. They're trying to put the best product out, and it completely backfires. And what happens? John Daniels, after 17 years, loses his job. We're talking about.
Yep.
But we can run through every major league team, and majority of them.
I get you.
The Cincinnati Reds have been dog shit for 20 years. For 20 years.
I know.
Dog shit. The big red machine. Dog shit.
But they had Joey Votto to build around, and they just didn't. And now, so they unloaded their best pitcher, right? Luis Castillo, right? And if you're a Cincinnati Reds fan, you go, what's going on here? Why would you trade one of the best young pitching prospects in baseball to get 5 potential minor leaguers to build around? That means they're another 10 years away from putting a formidable team.
Because they're not going to pay Luis Castillo, Garrett Cole money.
But that's what you need to do in baseball.
But they're not going to do it.
I know they're not going to do it, but I'm saying, if I'm a fan, why don't you do it? You're charging me $20 for a hot dog. Pay these kids.
Because it's Cincinnati.
We're not that far off. We just can't get 100% aligned, you and I, on this concept of blowing teams up and building for the future. Because as we know, the future may never come. Never come. Anyway, let's move on. And I'm just going to bring up one thing in the NBA, and it's not Kevin Durant, it's not Kyrie Irving. LeBron James, the commissioner, as you know, of the NBA, just signed a 2-year, $97 million deal. So, they're all invested in LeBron, who's, rapidly approaching 49 years old. I'm 39 years old, but he wants to play. He's the commissioner and said, I'll sign this deal if you can guarantee that my son will be the number 1 pick for the Los Angeles Lakers next year. And that's kind of why I can't get involved in the NBA.
It doesn't matter where he winds up in the NBA. That's not going to be the Lakers. He signed a 2-year deal. Bronny's not eligible for another 3, I think it is.
Right.
Right? It don't matter. He's sticking around.
He's going to hang around.
Oh, there's
Exactly.
no question for this dog and pony show.
And if he gets drafted by the
Ah.
Sacramento Kings, then LeBron James will play for the
Of
Sacramento
course.
Kings.
There's no question about
I
it.
just hate that one player has that much power over a franchise
And if,
and the
it's-
league.
and if the New York Knicks draft him, gee, guess where LeBron's going?
Exactly. And it'll certainly put fans in the seats, but it
The
does,
Knicks
it's
are
not going
not
to make.
lacking for fans in the seats.
I don't understand why, but
Neither
they
do
should
I.
be. So let's move on to our random points of interest, which of course is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. Had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I can't seem to find our Lynch Toyota shirt I got from my partner here, but our sponsor takes very good care of us, and that's how they take care of their customers up in Manchester. So you want a Toyota, that's where you go. So Steve, random points, couple things. There was I saw this yesterday, and we certainly remember Bill Lee, right? Who was
The spaceman.
the spaceman, of course, but he collapsed. He's 70 something, 75, pitching for the Savannah Bananas, which is this, bingo, was it Bingo Long and his Traveling All Stars kind of show. And it's funny, it's making money.
You know,
75, of course he collapsed. It's 2,000 degrees every day in Georgia, but they're on the road, but he was a character. Overall impressive. Is he a Hall of Famer? No, but he sure as hell was a character in Major League Baseball.
no question. He was a Montreal Expo, Boston Red Sox.
Didn't die, but he
No.
collapsed.
But to me, Bill Lee and the Yankees fight. I think that was 1976, if I remember correctly, where
Was it Pinella
yeah,
or something?
Pinella barreling into Fisk, and then the big brouhaha.
Right.
And Lee got tossed around and separated his shoulder, and literally it wasn't the same. Because the Red Sox in '75 against the Reds, Bill Lee was in that rotation.
He was started Game 7.
You better
actually.
believe it.
Yep.
So, Bill Lee the next year, again, I think that injury to his shoulder kind of curtailed his career.
Yep.
But nicknamed the Spaceman.
For a reason.
Yeah, but he was a character, not a bad guy. Bill Lee. He's still revered in Boston.
And he had I think he was like 110 and 90 in his career. I think he only played for the
Listen,
Red Sox and the Expos, right? But
so,
anyway, it's notable.
Yeah.
When you get a character like that in baseball, it's always noted by Sports with Mono and Mono because that's what made the game watchable, right?
Sure.
So a couple other things, and I haven't seen it yet, but I want to watch this Netflix documentary on Manti Te'o, right? Remember the big story 10 years ago? Can't believe it's been 10 years, but he was a hell of a player in football, and it's kind of bizarre. I can't even actually explain it. So I'm planning on watching that Netflix documentary because I don't know all the behind the curtains kind of thing, but it was bizarre at the time. We looked at each other like, I don't even understand what was going on. What they call it, ghost dating or some crazy fishing, ghost fishing, right? But I'm going to watch that because it sounds interesting, and we certainly remember him as a player going, wow.
He was engaged to somebody that he never.
It's called catfishing.
Oh, catfishing. That's good.
Catfishing? Okay.
And what do you know about catfishing?
A whole other episode.
Okay. We'll wait for the Rob Garanti Netflix documentary on that one, right? But that was interesting. And so I guess he's Jason Garrett taking over. So Jason Garrett's going to be the new voice of Notre Dame football, I guess, right? They replacing Drew Brees on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, Drew Brees.
I get that. He was a great quarterback, but I like, Jason Garrett's been a coach in this league for forever. And now I guess he's making more money on the sidelines, off the sidelines.
He's a Princeton man.
He is a Princeton man. Yep. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. And I just wanted to stick to this one other point on, and we're not going to beat it to death because we already have, but this LIV thing, there are more and more guys. Cam Smith is going to be the next to fall, right, and go over there, right? But this whole Patrick Reed thing, right? He's now suing Golf Channel and he's suing Brandel Chambly for defamation. The guy's been a wise ass for his entire career. Yeah, he got lucky and won a Masters, so you can't take that away from him. That's something that can never be shortchanged on him. But he's just, I don't know. I can't see me going to an LIV event to see Patrick Reed. I just can't do it.
Again, I mean, Dustin Johnson,
I know.
Patrick Reed.
Yep.
Listen, I was a fan of Patrick Reed. I rooted for him, and now it makes my stomach.
Yep. So, anyways, and that's what a job of an announcer is, especially on something like Golf Channel, right? That's your opinion. Nick Faldo and Johnny Miller are the two guys. They said, if you screw up, they're gonna mention it. It's not defamation. It's analyzing sports and the performance. You make a lot of money, so you got to be subjected to it. So, anyway. Steve, we're going to move on to our notable passings. And there was a legend in college basketball that passed away, Pete Carroll, 92, former Princeton coach.
Pete Carrill.
Is it Carrill?
Carrill.
Yeah, some say Carroll, some say Carrill.
Pete Carrill.
Tomato, whatever. But he was, he was a great basketball coach. He took a team of Princeton Tigers. And what I remember the biggest thing, and they lost by 1 point, was with Alonzo Mourning and Georgetown. They were backdoor passing. This was street ball. This was the old backdoor.
Yeah.
And they executed it like no other team in college basketball history. Why it's not used more and more? It's probably because of the 3-point shot and the athleticism of these guys. But he had a great career. I think he started at Lehigh, went to Princeton, 12 NCAA tournament champions, and he was great.
Ivy League champ.
He was great. He was a nice guy, and just that's a big loss for college basketball.
No question. I remember the Princeton teams like it was yesterday.
Yep.
I think they finally won one. Escaping me though.
Won what? A tournament game?
Yeah.
NCAA?
Recently. Hey Rob, can you look that up? I know Princeton won one of them.
Yeah.
They lost 4 of them.
What's that?
Like who did Princeton beat in the NCAA tournament? It was a ranked team.
And they weren't always knocked out in the first round. They got to the second round a couple times, but he was just like one of the gentlemen kind of guys of college basketball.
They would hang tough with, like you said, the Alonzo Mournings, Georgetown.
Yeah,
teams.
that was like 79, 78, and Georgetown finally came back. But I saw some quotes from Alonzo Mourning saying, we couldn't stop these guys on this backdoor play. They didn't prepare for it. Yeah, it's great.
But I know Princeton won one. The game is escaping.
Yeah, I don't know that they ever made it to a Sweet 16. Possibly,
No, but they won early in the tournament.
Right.
But
anyway, Steve, there was one other notable, and I think it's notable because I remember him. This Luke Knox, 22 years old. He was a former, linebacker at Ole Miss, ultimately transferred to Florida International. Don't know I don't have the coroner's report or anything, but he was a young kid, 22, and he's the brother of Dawson Knox, tight end for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
And you hate to see, like I said, we see it over and over again, life getting snuffed out at 22 years old. It's a promising future, and that's kind of sad. But, I wanted to bring that up because, he was the brother of Dawson Knox, and I actually always thought he was a good enough player to make his own mark in the NFL. But 22 years old is just way too young.
It's unfortunate we report notable passings.
But we do it in
At this
memoriam
age.
as an
No, I know.
acknowledgement.
I'm just saying.
Yep.
At this age, that's too many that we report. And
Okay.
obviously, yes, it's meant to honor and
Yep.
memoriam these guys.
But Luke Knox, 22 years old.
22 is way too.
Yep. So listen, folks, thanks for joining us. And again, our show's picking up momentum. A lot more people are listening and watching, and we certainly appreciate that. And we, of course, as always, we would love to hear you. So send us an email at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com, and check us out on Facebook and YouTube and SoundCloud. You know where to find us. But we couldn't be more grateful to the people that we meet on the streets, and we talk to people, and they go, "Oh, I did listen to your show. It's really great." And that's perfect example is a guy that I work with, Abe, who just goes, you know what? You guys have a really good show, and we're sticking with it. So we're, when we ultimately have our own studio and then we start to do some remote things, I can't wait.
UCLA.
That's right.
Very good.
Took me a while.
I don't know who was on that UCLA team. Do you?
What year does it say?
96, I think.
Oh, that's way back.
96?
I can't pull that out. Anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, folks, so thanks for joining us. And again, we'll be back next week, of course. And thanks to Rob, our producer, again. And you guys enjoy your weekend. It's beautiful in the Northeast. A little hot, but not as hot as it was. And, we couldn't be more grateful to our fan base. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.